is in accordance with that interpretation.
So as a scientist and a physician or whatever, I now have the gift of having a collapsed nerve. So I don't have an arm, I have vibration.
Yes.
That vibration is at an amplitude much higher than my usual subclinical vibration that normally I don't notice my arm is vibrating. Now, because of the fact my nerve is being compressed, my entire arm is vibrating. It hits pain threshold only when the story comes in and says, ouch. It's really interesting to watch. So it goes in and out of awareness. Sometimes it's not an arm. Sometimes it's just the little dots you were talking about this morning. Sometimes it's like, wow, I need drugs. But it really is always the same thing.
Yes, it's always the same thing, and we can interpret it in different ways. And there's nothing wrong with interpreting our experience in these different ways. Sometimes it's appropriate to interpret our experience as a collection of objects. For instance, when your car breaks down, you just think of your car as an object. You take it to a garage, you speak to a person, and you get it mended. Those concepts don't express the reality of the situation, but it's appropriate in that situation to think in terms of subjects and objects. Fine, no problem. It's not that we have to get rid of that or deny that. It's just that it's only a very partial reality. Likewise, there are times when it's appropriate to think in terms of mind. And then when the situation doesn't require an interpretation, then we go back to pure knowing. So that is our baseline.
I think you may have partially answered my question. So yesterday morning in your talk, I had the yes, yes, yes experience. And then something about bridging into the imaginary self feels a challenge. If this is not real, if it's imagined, if it's constructed out of thought, then, well, for example, what you pointed to yesterday, that the body has to release at some point conditioned feelings, conditioned experience, that must happen for one to fully live from or as awareness. So if it's imaginary, if it's not real, and then here there's the apparent solidity of memories, experiences, karmic, childhood, whatever, locked, and there needs to be some process about it. It seems to me it seems at some level a contradiction. I recognize it's a paradox, but how can what's imaginary be real?
Yes.
And dealt with as if it were real, not dissimilar to your metaphor about the car.
It's not that the body is not real. All experience is real. Yes? Imagine having an unreal experience. What kind of experience would that be?
Well, I've had lots of experiences where I see it initially through one set of lenses,
okay, but
and then I realize that's not real.
When you have a dream, isn't your dream real?
Yeah.
It has a reality to it.
Yeah.
Yes?
But some of the reality...
So all experience is real. What would an unreal experience be? Isn't this experience real? I mean, now you're having an experience, yes?
It seems to be.
No, not it seems. Are you having an experience or not?
Yes.
Yes. Is it real or not?
Well, I guess so. I mean, at this moment, I'm questioning.
But how could the experience not be real? What would an unreal experience be?
Well, I guess what I'm pointing to is the interpretation of the experience.
No, but that's another thing. We'll come to that. But the experience itself, isn't all experience real?
Yeah.
The mistake we make is to think and to feel that the reality of all experience, and all experience is real, is made out of something called matter or mind. That's the mistake. It's not that experience is unreal. There's no such thing as an unreal experience. We all know that. We all know that whatever experience we're having, it's real. There is something real about our experience.
Mm-hmm.
But the mistake is to believe that what is real about it is, in other words, its essential nature is made out of something called matter or mind. That's the mistake we make. So what we do here is we look at experience and discover what is really real about it, because these three possibilities, either to believe that experience is essentially made out of stuff called matter or mind or pure knowing, will profoundly condition the way at a relative level we relate to experience. And depending on those three possibilities. For instance, if we think that the reality of experience is stuff called matter, made out of objects, made out of separate objects, we will, whether we realize it or not, we will consider ourselves to be a subject, separate from the object. In other words, we will consider ourselves a limited subject that lives in here and is made out of this. And this limited body-made subject is a very fragile subject. So it needs constant maintenance. It needs to both protect itself from all outside objects and others, and it needs to aggrandize itself through others and objects. So its relationship, this imaginary subject, its relationship with the outside objects and others, with the world, is always one of partly resisting, partly seeking. And these are the two modes in which the separate self perpetuates itself. So it has this ambivalent relationship with the world. And as a result of that, certain patterns of feeling will arise in the body. For instance, a feeling in the body that is consistent with the belief that I need to be protected. I am fearful. And the body will literally, physically take on a posture, an attitude that is consistent with that feeling of fear, and in a very exaggerated form. Such a posture could be very, very raised shoulders, or we all know there are fearful postures that are enshrined in the body that express our feeling that I am vulnerable and afraid, and the world is dangerous. So I need to protect myself. And the body, this feeling is really, it takes a shape of the body. So in the kind of exploration of the body that we began to do this morning, we explore this feeling of me in the body, not just in the idea. And in time, in this deep exploration of the body, these old habits of feeling the body in a way that is consistent with a separate self are exposed. To begin with, they are exposed, and then as a byproduct, not as a goal, but as a byproduct of this exploration, those attitudes, gestures, postures, movements of the body that are solely there to represent a separate self are gradually washed out of the system, so that the shoulders relaxed. We take a less defensive posture in relation to life. So this has a profound effect at the level of the apparently physical body.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you. So how does the process happen where the body begins to understand, or there's some process where it becomes apparent in the whole being, in the whole identity, that it is simply aware, transparent,
Through the types of exploration we did this morning, that the body is explored very minutely, very intimately, very sensitively. And in that exploration, patterns and habits of feeling on behalf of a separate self are exposed. And they are exposed to the light of awareness, which has no agenda with them at all. These feelings have been used either to being suppressed because they're too uncomfortable to face, or being expressed as a means of getting rid of the energy that is pent up in them. But both their expression and both their repression and their expression tends to perpetuate them. So in this contemplation, they are neither expressed nor repressed. They are just allowed. They come out from their hiding places in the body, and they are just allowed to rise up into the light. They are exposed to the light of awareness. And then in the kind of contemplation that we did this morning, the light of awareness, it penetrates these knots and tensions and resistances. And likewise, in turn, these resistances expand into the light of awareness, like a dry sponge that is placed into water. It gradually gets saturated with the water, and as a result, it relaxes and opens up. So it's a two-way process: a penetration of the body by the light of knowing, and an expansion of the body into the space of awareness. So it's a two-way kind of reciprocal, until these two melt together, until there's no longer two there, until it's just a transparent body which is identical with awareness.
That's so beautiful. So it really invites practice, doesn't it?
I don't like calling it practice only because of the association.
Or attention,
yes,
or
it's
awareness.
Like a loving. Think of it as a loving contemplation of the body.
But with repetition,
that's what practice really is.
Yeah.
But the only reason I don't like practice is because of the traditional association where you're forcing yourself to do something that you don't really want to do, but you think you should do it because you'll get enlightened one day. It's not that kind of thing. It's a loving contemplation of the body and a cooperation at the level of the body with what we have already understood at the level of the mind.
Yeah.
So it's not it's a very contemplative. And it's something that doesn't take place at the level of the mind. It takes place, it's about sensing, feeling and sensing. There's really not much for the mind to do other than to listen to the suggestions. But the suggestions are not supposed to invite thinking about the body. It's really to go to the actual experience. So it's a very participatory. We really participate, we cooperate at the level of the body.
Yeah, I understand. That's very helpful. Thank you so much.